Hi, and thank you, Seth, and to all of those at Inspire for giving us the opportunity to present today's webinar entitled Finding the Perfect College, a Dummies Guide for Parents of Food Allergic High Schoolers, the EOE edition. As Seth mentioned, I'm Mary Jo Strobel. I'm Executive Director for the American Partnership for Eosinophilic Disorders, and I'll be moderating today's program. So I'd like to thank today's speaker, Denise Bunning, for joining us today. Denise is an educator, a support group leader, and an advocate who works to improve the lives of children with food allergies. But she's also a patient advocate for those with eosinophil-associated diseases. Her family has a personal connection, which she will share with you, along with her experiences with how students can navigate the challenges of school selection when dietary restrictions must be taken into consideration. So thanks again for Denise for joining us today, and we look forward to learning from you.
Fantastic. Okay, I'm just making sure that my screen went blank for a little bit, but we are back, so that's exciting. Thank you, Mary Jo and the AppFed and Inspire team for having me. Hi, parents. It's a little weird not being able to see everyone, so I'm waving to you all, and I have a purple shirt on. I'm not fancy like my picture, but in jeans and a purple sweatshirt. I'm thrilled AppFed asked me to do this webinar, and I will try to share my tips and tricks for making this very scary transition a little easier. I'm calling this a Dummies Guide for Parents of Food Allergic High Schoolers, as you heard, the EOE edition, better known as POFAS. So let's get started. So Mary Jo, are you going to give me, so I can click to the next slide? I think I'm going to try that, and it's not working. So, okay, perfect. Okay, a little bit about me. I was a POFA too. P equals parent, O equals of, F equals food, A equals allergic, H equals high schooler. Those of you that know me or have heard of me, my MOCA support group, I'm a big acronym fan. I have two sons, Brian, who is 24, believe it or not, and Daniel, who is 22. A lot of this presentation will focus more on Daniel because he's the one that has eosinophilic esophagitis. More details on each of them in a bit, but my approach is always to educate in a positive and fun way. Next slide. Oh, yeah, there we go. Raising awareness and educating others about EOE. Daniel was a speaker in July at AppFed's 16th Annual Patient Education Conference. You can see Mary Jo in the picture with Daniel in the center, and Wendy Book from AppFed. He truly enjoys sharing his story and helping families, especially kids, learn to live their best life. And you can see in these pictures here him speaking and educating. It's really what he does, and he's thrilled to be able to share his story with others. Next slide. The journey begins. Brian had life-threatening food allergies to milk, eggs, tree nuts, and mild asthma. He outgrew milk at 11, egg at 17, and is still tree nut allergic. Daniel had life-threatening food allergies to milk, eggs, tree nuts, shellfish, fish, and beef. He outgrew egg at 6, was diagnosed with EOE at 9, got a Gtube at 10, was formula only for a while, and can now tolerate about 15 foods orally. He has also done oral immunotherapy to milk and other anaphylactic allergies. Next slide. Daniel's Gtube each year. This Gtube picture timeline has been very helpful for other people to understand Daniel's growth visually. Those of you that are on the line that have children with food allergies and EOE know that trying to share your story with others is difficult, and sometimes pictures help people to understand. Next slide. And yes, I make him take the picture on his Gtube anniversary date every year, which happens to be March 27th. It's been a huge process for us, as you can tell, and those of you that are going through this journey understand that any kind of positivity that we can do or make makes the process a little easier. So these pictures actually have been, in the beginning, it was challenging to look at, how sick he really was. But as you can tell now, he's 22 at the bottom right there and 2 thumbs up. And so that's great. Next slide. Food is everywhere. This is obvious, but it's why the lives of food allergic and EOE families are challenging. Reminder that nothing is perfect and that each situation offers an experience and a learning opportunity. You get better with practice. My husband Dave's favorite dad line to the kids is practice, practice, practice. Next slide. Daniel's foods. Meats, pork, beef, egg. That's not really a food, or a beef. Grains are wheat, rice, and oat. Veggies, asparagus, broccoli, corn, and soy. Fruits, grape, watermelon, apple, tomatoes, and olives. Other, Sprite. His current medications, he's on budesonide with honey. He's also on Prevacid, and he's also on Zyrtec. Next slide. Cooking. Daniel has become quite the chef over the years. I've always said, not only does Daniel have life-threatening food allergies, EOE, and a gastric tube, but he is also extremely picky too. Allowing him to cook his own food exactly how he likes it was a game changer for us. As he got older, foods that I would cook for him, he would, say, "Oh, Mom, you don't know how to cook those eggs. Let me do it." So he would always hop onto the web, figure out a chef that could do it, and then try to emulate some of the famous chefs. So he really has gotten a lot better at cooking. And quite honestly, if he likes his cooking better than me, that's great. Next slide. Daniel's advice to teens is to know your meals. His meals are bacon and egg sandwich, pasta with meat sauce, ham sandwich, eggs and watermelon, pork chop, brown rice and broccoli, burgers, and he does frequent some chain restaurants. This is his claim to fame on being able to handle his life in the most easy and safe manner. Next slide. Eating options. Think about your child's closest safe places to eat. Find and map the food options that are best for your child. When you're on your college visits, make sure your child's safe favorites are close by. Next slide. Travel. When Daniel was younger, he preferred not to travel. As he's matured and become more independent with managing his food allergies and EOE, he's become more adventurous. Follow the zones. Plan equals the red light zone. Prepare equals the yellow light zone. Proceed equals the green light zone. If interested, you can watch one of my prior presentations from sleepovers to college, Coaching Your Food Allergic Child to Independence on FAIR's website. Next slide. The red light zone. Plan. Acknowledge your own emotions. Try to understand the emotions of your child. I know that's like the $1 million question, but you're going to try to do that. Do your homework. Excel spreadsheets are your new BFFs. Next slide. Do your homework. Plan. Utilize online resources that have good reputations, such as AppFed, FAIR, the Princeton Review, College Board. Get some helpful college books, maybe College Planning for Dummies. Check out the Allergic Living website. The earlier you start your homework, the less stressed you and your child will be. Excel spreadsheets are your new BFFs. I know you can't really read this, but I wanted to show you specifically how we and our family handled it. This is an example of Daniel's college search Excel spreadsheet. On the left-hand side are all the colleges listed, and then we went through like, what was the national ranking? What's the size? What were the ACT or the SAT scores? Was there anything special, about early decision or any kind of special situation. In the beginning, Daniel was interested in soccer, and then he switched to music, so we have that information on there. Any other information and what city it was in to try to understand how navigating travel might be. So getting organized calms everyone down. So the yellow light zone, prepare. Time to get some answers. Go on college visits. Rate your child's preferences. And the no's are even more important than yeses. I say this line to parents all the time, and I truly mean that this is a big deal. The no's are even more important than the yeses. It's very difficult for children to say what they like or what they think they might like, but it's a lot easier to say, no, I don't like that. So the other thing you want to remind yourself is that your child is going to college without you. My son really liked to tease me about that I was not coming with him to college. Next slide. Rate your thoughts. How do you think your child will answer these questions? Parents, trust yourself. You know your child, but you need to get to know them even more. Dig deep and be creative in how you get your answers. With every answer, you are helping them. So you're going to go back and you're going to think about your child's personality. Are they decisive, easygoing? Are they unsure? Socially, are they a partier, middle of the road, a homebody? Food, a foodie, eats whatever, picky. Decisions, they're a fast and immediate decision maker, weighs options, they go at a turtle pace. And then you're trying to help them, and you're helping them with these types of guesses. You see them at a large school, a medium school, a small school in the East, Midwest, West, located in the urban, suburban, rural, has high academics, medium academics, average academics. They're going to participate sports, music, art, other, any kind of clubs. Do they want to live in a dorm, in an apartment, a house, in a sorority or fraternity? Will they want to eat in the dining halls, cook for themselves, order fast food, or go to a restaurant? And then when you visit in person, you're going to think to yourself, can you see them at this place? It seems like a fit, not sure, or no way. Not only are you going to do that as a parent, but of course you're wanting to get that information from your child because it's about your child. Next slide. The no's are more important than the yeses. Okay, so for Brian was recruited for swimming. He went on various college trips. Chicago felt like him. He majored in biology with a specialization in immunology. When he was entering college, he had anaphylactic food allergies to tree nuts. Daniel initially thought he wanted to play soccer, but changed his mind to pursue musical theater and economics. He likes warm weather, went on some various college trips, strong opinions on what he didn't like. After a visit to a small California school, he stated, "No way do I want to go to a small school." Now, this was a very interesting statement because online, he had decided that that was the school for him. He absolutely was going there. And then when we actually made the flight and we flew there and we got there and we got on the campus, and he looked at me and he said, "Yeah, no way. Like, I don't like it here." So really taking the time to help your children is super important. And I know some people are able to make those decisions and be fine with it. And other people really need to feel it, touch it, see it. Both my kids have very different personalities. Brian is a lot more easygoing. Daniel is not easygoing at all. And so you're obviously going to handle the situation based on your specific child and their needs. Northwestern offered musical theater and economics, which is a great fit for Daniel, even though he wishes it were not in Illinois, because we live in Illinois and we're only about 45 minutes away, and I am not allowed to visit unless I am offered the invitation. So this was a no that turned into a yes. Next slide. Green light zone. Proceed. Narrowing down the list. Remember that Excel spreadsheet? Well, here's where you're going to start in filling the details. Figuring out if your child will be safe at the applied schools. Reaching out to food-allergic students at applied colleges. Following up once accepted. Have a communication plan. Use travel apps. Figuring out eating options. Next slide. Narrowing down the list, getting your information. You're going to get the information from trusted sources such as Allergic Living, AppFed, college websites, FAIR, MOCA, Spoken, Your Pals. Next slide. Okay, following up with the Disabilities Office. Again, I know this is very small and you can't really zoom in unless you have a magnifying glass, but I wanted you to see the details that I included. So congrats, your file was accepted. Now what? Well, since you already did your homework ahead of time, you may have already been in touch with the Disabilities Office at your child's college. You will need to figure out how to handle housing and eating. Here's an example of my email to the Disabilities Office. Notice how detailed I was, breaking it down into the areas of my concern. I went over general and then health, eating, dorm selection, accommodations and questions, and summary. I try when I am talking to someone or doing a presentation or giving information to leave the person with every question that they have answered. So that's my goal. My goal is to try to make things as easy as possible. And so when I share information, that nobody has any questions. Next slide. Email to doctor for Daniel starting college. Same thing. Dear doctor, Happy New Year. We're all very excited about Daniel getting into Northwestern. We need to get some documentation into the accessible NU office that requires you to fill out the link below. And again, this is the type of thing that all colleges are different, and depending upon if you are using the Disabilities Office at such and such college, you're going to have to go through a little bit of a different process, but it's not that different. The office is responsible for helping with accommodations. So in this example, we were requesting a single dorm room with a microwave and a refrigerator, access to a convenient bathroom, as well as access to a kitchen. We worked with a Northwestern dietitian to figure out if each cafeteria was going to have a contact person for Daniel to receive the safe food. It's a lot of information and it's a lot of prep ahead of time, but by doing this ahead of time, it allows your child and you and the school to feel comfortable. And I think this is funny. When I found this, when I was looking for it, nope, go back. When I was looking, I thought it was funny because it says, I'll be documenting this journey of getting ready for college and the launch so that others like Daniel, if there are any, can learn from our process. So here I am 4 years later using the same email that I sent 4 years ago and trying to help you out. So hopefully me saving everything has a purpose. Okay, next slide. All right, again, this is, all information in somebody's face, but super important. Notice how detailed I was. I don't like leaving details out, and I don't like having questions unanswered. So I'm always an open book on that. And again, it goes child by child and case by case. So I'm just sharing my situation and our situation, and some of the things I'm sharing might not be applicable to you, but you'll have to handle your situation as it fits your own child. I wanted to try and make this transition as easy as possible for everyone. So like I said, the more information I could give people and they were willing to read, I thought the better. Next slide. Daniel suggests do your homework, prepare, start early, scope out the campus, dining halls, delivery, grocery stores, and walkable restaurants. It's a process. I know you're probably feeling a bit overwhelmed. It's okay. You will do your homework, you will get answers, you will make a game plan, and you will adjust. Keep working on it until your child is accepted to the right college for them. The sigh of relief, once it's all worked out, is worth all of the stress, indecision, and compromise you've all endured once your child is safely in place. Next slide. Green light, go. Move-in day for Daniel. Since Daniel goes to Northwestern, we were able to drive and move him in. Freshman year, Daniel opted for a single dorm room with a bathroom and a micro fridge in his dorm. Notice Daniel couldn't relax until everything was perfectly in place. He originally wanted a roommate, but his older brother and I strongly encouraged him to get a single. He was very, very angry with me at the time, and then 2 weeks later called and thanked me and his brother for knowing him so well. An example of a no that turned into a yes. And of course, the EpiPens with I thought that the middle picture is just so college right there. Don't forget your EpiPen. He actually uses EpiPens and AviQs now, but I that's one of my favorite college pictures. Next slide. Sophomore year, he decided to follow in his brother's footsteps and lived in a gross apartment, and I mean gross, with one roommate. Junior and senior year, he's living in a fairly okay house with 7 other a cappella guys. He prefers to cook for himself. For his 21st birthday, he asked for a grill, bottom right. Despite Daniel's allergies, he's able to sing in an a cappella group, perform in musicals, participate in a fraternity, has not yet found a girlfriend, and yes, go to classes too. He's currently a senior at Northwestern, majoring in musical theater and economics. Next slide. Dan's advice to teens. It gets so much better. Set goals. Find interests that take your mind off food. It does have a psychological impact, physical pain versus emotional anxiety. Practice changing your tube. Your friends won't understand, but you don't understand them either. You are more than your diet. Don't let it control a conversation or your life. Next slide. Family. I always include our extended family in these discussions because this process requires a team effort. Lean on the people who listen to you and your child, encourage you when you're frustrated, remain involved in your child's life because that's what it's all about, your child's life. Next slide. Friends. Daniel enjoys his friends. He loves making people laugh and helping people. Next slide. Support. I remember sitting at a fair teen summit listening to the mom of a college freshman, and I thought to myself, are you kidding me? I'm having a hard time getting through 7th grade. How am I going to do this? Here's what I can tell you from my humble perspective as the mom of a college graduate and a college senior. You will listen to your kids. They will push and ask you to help them do something if it's important to them. They will tell you they don't care about something. Sometimes the I don't care needs further investigation on your part. They may really want to do something, but it just seems too overwhelming for them. They need your help, but they might not ask for it. So you need to be the investigator. Be involved. Get engaged. I'm preaching to the choir here because you're listening to this webinar. Next slide. Staying connected. Communication plan. Call, text, email, social media, Bitmoji and emojis. Disclaimer, I do not use social media. I don't have a Facebook page, but I've heard from several people that it may be helpful. I'm old school. I like to call, text, and email, but I like to do it with my own personality, so my boys feel like they're really talking to mom. Discuss with your child how you will continue to stay in touch. Having a communication plan will help relieve your anxiety. Next slide. Onward to the future. I really enjoy these comics. Focusing is on living the best, safe life, not avoiding life experiences. Next slide. You can do it. I'm happy to be one of your go-to people. I'm in this 24/7 until there is no longer a need. Feel free to contact me at denise@mochaallergies.org, or I got permission from Daniel, and he said you can reach him directly at danielbunning96@gmail.com. Thanks very much for listening, and I'm going to pass it back to Mary Jo to open it up for the Q&A. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Denise, for an excellent presentation. I know that many of us will have questions, and I'm glad that you left a good amount of time for some Q&A, so thank you. So everybody participating that would like to ask a question, if you haven't already, please use the questions function in the control panel to submit your questions. We'll do our best to address as many as possible, but if we don't have a chance to answer your specific question today, we encourage you to post your question in the eosinophilic disorders support community on Inspire. So Denise, I do have a question to kick things off. Could you talk a little bit about how far in advance your family started the process of vetting schools that might be a good fit?
Sure. Well, since I mentioned earlier, Brian is my older son, and he's 2.5 years older than Daniel. So Daniel did watch Brian go through the process. So we had a little bit for Daniel. It was a little bit of an easier situation that he watched his older brother go through the process. But he was a sophomore in high school when we started, and we actually his process, we did start a little bit earlier. We didn't start Brian's process until junior year, but we did start Daniel's process sophomore year, and it was due to his health concerns. We really wanted to take the time and spend a little bit more time knowing the situation and the places and such.
Thank you. Next question is, should we focus on looking at schools near where our students are currently getting medical care? Did that factor into your decision when you were looking at schools with Daniel?
No, it's interesting. Our family is from Illinois. We live in Illinois, and just really interestingly, Brian ended up going to University of Chicago and Daniel ended up going to Northwestern, both Illinois schools, but that was not the process whatsoever. We told both children to try to pick and find the best school possible that they wanted, not having, we didn't want to limit them in terms of their health concerns in any way, shape, or form. And I basically said, if you get into the school and that's your dream school, we will figure out a way to make it work. And so I think that each family is different and unique in that some people want to be close to where they're getting their medical care. And again, that's an independent decision on what you feel your family can handle. The affordability, do you need to be in a close proximity from a driving standpoint or again, it's an individual basis, but we did not limit.
Great, thank you. I've got two similar questions that I'm going to combine into one on the fly here. In your slides earlier, you had mentioned online resources that were helpful for college selection. So the two questions that were related was, how did you find those helpful in your search? And is there a database or a list of schools that may be more friendly towards food restriction needs, so to speak?
Okay, so what we did was, the power of the internet is good and bad, blessing and a curse kind of thing. But I think that depending upon, I'll use Brian for an example. Okay, so we knew Brian wanted to swim in college. So we started the search for Brian and we figured out which schools had, swim teams. We looked at D1 schools, then we looked at D3 schools. So pulling up those types of college websites can help you because, again, you're not focusing completely. I mean, your food allergy or your EOE or your health disorder is just one part of your own puzzle. Like you're an athlete, you're a singer, you're a debater, there's so many things about yourself. And so the college process was trying to make that fit academically and with the different types of activities that you might be involved in, and then looking towards the food allergy. So the second part of the question is there a list? So right now, FAIR is Food Allergy Research and Education. That's the foodallergy.org. They do have certain colleges that have already participated in training. And so, yes, there are certain colleges that are possibly ahead of other colleges because they've gone through the training. But, again, I don't want to have parents and children feel that they're limited to only a college that has gone through that training, because if there's a will, there's a way. I say that all the time. Daniel spent 72 days in China, and that was certainly not mom's choice, but that's what Daniel wanted to do between his freshman and sophomore year in college. And so, again, where there's a will, there's a way, and making safe choices and options possible do take a lot of time and pre-thought, but if it's that important to your child, you can make it happen. I'm a big believer of that.
Thank you. Next question is, did you use a 504 plan with Daniel's school? And if so, what kind of accommodations did he have in there?
So yes, we did. Again, on one of my slides, I talk about following up with the Disabilities Office. So Daniel has had a 504 since actually starting kindergarten, and we've adapted it as needed. It's interesting. In high school, he was a little. He didn't really quite understand. It's like, Mom, this is ridiculous. I'm 15 years old. I'm 16 years old. I'm 17 years old. Why do you do this? And so I would say to him, Daniel, I know that you're more than your food allergies and you're more than your EOE and your Gtube. However, other people in other environments might still be overwhelmed by this. And so um, the 504 in the Disabilities Office is there to help you if you need the accommodation. It doesn't mean you have to take the accommodation, but if you need it, it's in writing and it can be presented to you. If you don't ask for it and you don't have anything in place, then it's a lot harder to backtrack and say, oh, this isn't working, and then you have to backtrack on that. So I would rather ask for the accommodation, and then if it's not needed, backtrack in that manner. So Daniel did, and again, we talked about this in the slides. He had a single. He had a microwave and a refrigerator. He had his particular room actually had a bathroom in the bedroom, which was phenomenal as a freshman. And then he had access to a kitchen. He also was able to, although from an academic standpoint, he doesn't need extra time, but in his 504 was also an addendum that said if he was sick or if he missed due to his food allergies, eosinophil-associated, he would have the option to make up an assignment or a test in that manner. And that did actually come into play. I believe it was sophomore year, he ended up getting mono, and then he became very, very sick. And not only was he what I call regular sick because of the mono, but then he became EOE sick. And so having that accommodations, I was like, oh, good thing we have that. And so that's just something that, I believe in strongly as a former educator as well.
Okay, another question is, could you share a little more about the process for interviewing or speaking with other college students that have food restrictions, allergies, or EOE?
Sure, that's I think that's where AppFed and FAIR and support groups and Spoken can connect you. Like, here I am, and I'm a mom, and I have a 16-year-old that has blank, 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 and I'm looking for the same, or I'm looking for another college student. So those types of ways, going to teen summits, going to AppFed's conferences, like connecting with families that have kind of been there, done that, I think are the best opportunity. And again, I thank you, Mary Jo and AppFed and Inspire for doing a webinar like this, because I wish I could have had this, quite honestly, because it is overwhelming. And being able to talk to someone that's done it, even if their experience isn't exactly your experience, at least it fast tracks you to what you can and should be thinking about.
Thank you. How often does Daniel communicate with the dining services on campus? Does he do it? Is it by meal? Is it by day? Is it by week? And I assume, is he taking the lead on making those, approaching the appropriate person in dining services with those questions?
Yeah, so with Daniel, prior to starting college, we actually had a tour at Northwestern before he was even accepted. And we met the dietitian, the head dietitian, and the head chef of Northwestern. And we talked about, if Daniel were to be accepted, how would we handle this? What would we be doing? Which cafeterias could he participate in, and which couldn't he? And how would he manage to say, to the chef, like, hey, chef, it's Daniel, can I get a bowl of pasta and meat sauce in an hour? That kind of thing. So the good news about, social media and, being able to text and call and email and whatever else, you have to figure out what works for certain people. Some people are callers, some people are texters. And he was able to communicate very directly with the chef and got to be, he had a certain way of handling himself. He would call the, chef and say, I'm going to be at such and such a cafeteria. Can I have this? Or the chef would say, you need to contact this person at that other, cafeteria. So it was a lot of, and again, it was a lot of forward thinking and a lot of forward communication. But he was able to handle it. And then, as I mentioned, I think he was very happy that he did spend that freshman year in a dorm. He got to meet a lot of people. In the beginning, he was mad at me. I think I mentioned that. And in the end, it ended up being great. As a matter of fact, a lot of the friends that he made on that floor ended up using his bathroom all the time, which was very funny. So I think he's so, again, I mentioned this also, he's so picky about the food he eats that he likes to do it himself. So after freshman year, him getting an apartment sophomore year, and then moving into a house with a bunch of people, that's not a surprise because he likes to control his environment. And so that's how he handled it.
Okay, thank you. So the next two questions, again, are similar, so I will do my best on the fly to combine them. And this is a little further, they're questions to delve a little deeper into handling doctor's appointments when your teen is going to school away from home. Did you find that with Daniel, were you at that stage where he was transitioning from pediatric to adult care? And if that was the case, what are some things that your family did to help those transitions go a little more smoothly?
That's an excellent question. We did transition. I actually transitioned him earlier. I transitioned him from peds to an adult GI between 16 and 17. And I purposely did that because I wanted to have a relationship with the adult GI. And so I'm a big, as you can tell probably from my slides, I'm a gigantic communicator, and I'm the queen of CCing everyone, because I'd rather that everybody have the information than someone saying, oh, I didn't get that information from you, Denise. So we tried really hard to coordinate doctor's appointments during breaks, which of course isn't fun for the child because they want to go on vacation or they want to do something else. But Daniel felt that he would rather do his, whatever type of, whether he needed an endoscopy or whether we needed a doctor's appointment, we would try to coordinate okay, when is your last final? Okay, after your final, we can do this or we can do that. And so we would try to coordinate whether it was a well visit or, an endoscopy that was needed, what have you, with his breaks or in the summer. There were a couple times that it just didn't coordinate. And quite honestly, I needed to, I said, okay, well, here's one of those times we're going to have to, contact the Disabilities Office. You're going to have to miss, this day due to a doctor's appointment. It is, thank goodness we do have the, Disabilities Office. This is a doctor visit. This isn't like yay for fun. And so that's how we handled that. Did I answer all those questions?
I think so. Yes, thank you.
Got
And
it. Sure.
for those on the call, if you have additional questions on this, again, just a reminder to post those questions to our board on Inspire, and we can get those answers for you, as well as allow others in the community an opportunity to chime in with their experiences. Denise, you had this fantastic Excel spreadsheet in your slides that I believe you referred to as your BFF. What sort of information did your family track in those Excel spreadsheets? And were there any red flags that sort of right off the bat would eliminate a choice or from that sheet?
That's an excellent question. Yeah. No, that's an excellent question. So, again, Brian, our older son, he knew he wanted to swim in college. So, the spreadsheet, my husband's in finances, so he's a big, Excel spreadsheet dude. So, creating this spreadsheet was just a way to organize everyone. And it was like, okay, you find the school, you figure out where it is, you find out. And again, it was just a way to figure out ACT, SET, where it is. For him, it was about, swimming. And then it was about okay, after we contacted the Disabilities Office, do you think you're going to be safe there? So Brian's was a lot easier with, quote, just food allergies and not EOE and, some other issues. With Daniel, it is interesting that for him, he is much more picky, and I think that for him, he needed to feel it, see it, touch it. So, again, after we had done all of this, spreadsheets, and we had gone online and we'd figured this out, and yes, indeed, he was going to school and it was going to be in California and we were going to make this happen. And we go out there and we get on the campus. And first of all, the flight there took forever. The accommodations from a food standpoint of, figuring out as we were traveling, like how to get safe food. Then we get to California, and like it took forever to get to the college. And then one of his safe favorite places is Chipotle. And the campus of this particular campus, it was very small and, a great school, but the nearest Chipotle was like 20 minutes away. And so, like, there were so many different things. And he looked at me and he was like, there's just no way. Like, this is not going to work for me. And so going there was such a good, and again, the no of the travel was difficult. Getting food was difficult. How was he going to be able to get, Chipotle, which he relies on? There were so many different no's. And so by attaining those no's, it helped us, to transition into like, okay, let's be more thoughtful about, so this may sound silly to other people, but it doesn't sound silly to us. We need to make sure that there's a Chipotle close by. So that was on our spreadsheet. So, as you're doing this, nobody can tell you what's super important to you. You know that. Your child knows that. And, don't be wigged out by other people and their process, because it has to be the process that works for you.
Thank you. A few more questions that we have in queue. In general, did Daniel find that schools were overall willing to make accommodations that he needed?
Yes, actually. We were quite honestly blown away by the level of willingness to accommodate. So as we honed in on, probably by the time we got it down to 5 or 6 schools, and we, went on campus and went on the tour and saw the cafeterias and met the dietitian and met the chef, and, we were like, oh, okay, well, I could see you here. And he would say, I could probably go here and feel comfortable and safe. And then we'd go to the next one. So by the time we narrowed it down, we kind of took a sigh of relief, like, oh, thank goodness we did this ahead of time. Thank goodness there's not just one school. Like, there's multiple schools that I feel like I could be safe at. And so that process, again, it is a process, but you get there. You get there step by step. You get there through the no's. You get there through the yeses. You get there through visiting other people, talking to other people, and you will get there.
Great, thank you. And a reminder to all of the participants with questions, please use that question section on your control panel to input them. Denise, college roommates, the search for a college roommate, what was that process like for Daniel? And what sort of accommodations was he looking for to ask of his roommates? How did he work to vet them?
Okay, so in the beginning, Daniel was all about, oh, can't wait to go to, he's very social and he loves friends and he loves helping people. But again, he's also pretty picky and persnickety, and he's got his ways. And so his older brother and I going through the process with my older, who is so low key, I was like, oh my gosh, Brian, how are we going to do this for Daniel? And he was like, Mom, I really think his freshman year, he needs a single, because what he's not understanding is that there's plenty of time to socialize in college, but if he needs to go back to his dorm and tube feed himself, or he needs to change his tube, or he isn't feeling well, and quite honestly, what if he's gonna have to go to the bathroom and do his business in the bathroom? And he said, I'm concerned about that, and so I really think that we should encourage him to have a single freshman year. And so we brought that up, and he kind of was angry at me and he was angry at his brother. And we're like, listen, we just want what's best for you. And if you want to go against us, we certainly can, do it the traditional way. You can try to look for a roommate. When Brian went through college, he actually did go through the process and finding a roommate. He did state, I have anaphylactic tree nut allergies. So my roommate, I would like to make sure that you're not going to feel the need to have tree nuts in the room because I simply cannot have that. And so I think, again, it's a case by case situation with your child, and you've got to go through the process and figure out what might be best. I was willing to push through and get into a fight with my child because I had the support, quite honestly, of his older brother. And then afterwards, like I said, 2 weeks later, he was like, thank God you pushed for that. Good thing you and Brian were looking out for me. So again, it's the process that you need to work through with your child to see what you feel is the best case situation.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Denise. I do not see any other questions in queue specific to college, but we certainly, again, just a reminder to the participants that may have questions post-event, feel free to post those to Inspire so that Denise or I or community members can help get those answers for you. But Denise, we very much appreciate your time on the call today and all that you and Daniel have done to help prepare for this webinar. We're so glad that you could join us. At this point, I will turn it back over to Seth at Inspire if he has a few follow-up reminders for participants about accessing the recording. Otherwise, thank you very much, Denise.
Yeah, it's been truly my pleasure. And as I stated, I really am in this for the long haul, happy to help in any way I can. And, I was texting Daniel this morning because he's, at college. And I said, hey, by the way, if you get emails, the webinars today, you might get some emails from people. And he's like, I know, tell everyone hi. So I'm happy to have participated and hope that this has helped in some way, shape, or form.
Well, thank you again, Denise and Mary Jo, both of you guys, for joining us, as well as just sharing some insightful information, preparing for college. It's always a big transition, and we're glad for all of our attendees for also joining the webinar. We will make sure to send out this recording over the next few days. There'll be a link to it, so make sure you check your email. But if you have any other questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us at partner@inspire.com, and we can also pass those along to either Denise or Mary Jo. But we look forward to bringing similar programs to you in the near future. Again, thanks for participating, and enjoy the rest of the day and the rest of the week. Take care, everyone.